At the Quartermain mansion, Maxie arranges a private wedding dress viewing for Brooklyn. Maxie says they'll find her the perfect dress, but Brooklyn thinks it's not that big of a deal. Brooklyn says nobody gets a dress like her mom. Lois recalls her dress and how beautiful it was. Tracy inserts that the dress belonged to her mother, and Lois says Leela was the kindest person in the world to lend it to her. Lois wishes she could pass the gown on to Brooklyn, but it's not hers to give. Maxie asks how Lois ended up with Leela's dress. Lois explains the dress she was supposed to wear and housed in her family attic was destroyed as it became an actual squirrel's nest. She says Leela came to the rescue as Tracy didn't want to wear it when she married, so she lent it to her to get married in. A flashback of Leela gifting her the dress is shown. Brooklyn asks Tracy why she didn't wear it, and Tracy explains it just wasn't her style, so it went back into storage after Lois wore it. Later, Brooklyn comes out in a dress, and Lois loves it and asks if Brooklyn can see herself walking down the aisle and dancing in it. Brooklyn asks what Maxie's opinion is, but Maxie never advises on the dresses. Maxie explains she needs to feel beautiful, and that's all that matters. Brooklyn says she does feel beautiful in it. Lois says if everything goes as planned, this will be her only wedding dress. Maxie agrees this isn't like picking a dress for the nurse's ball. Maxie says this is a dress she'll see in photos for the rest of her life. Brooklyn becomes upset and says not everyone can have perfection handed to them. They have to accept what is available and move on. She storms out of the room. In private, Brooklyn looks at her parents' wedding photos on her phone. In the living room, Lois and Maxie both feel they upset Brooklyn. Tracy thinks pulling a wedding together so quickly is difficult, and Brooklyn is right. She has to settle for good enough. Lois says that's not good enough, and Maxie promises to fix this. Brooklyn comes out and says she needs to be honest about the wedding. Brooklyn can't wait to marry Chase, but sometimes she wishes she could run away and elope. Lois doesn't think that is what she wants, and Brooklyn admits she doesn't. She can't wait for the wedding, she just doesn't want to agonize over the dress and details. Chase arrives at Finn's to ask him something, and Finn says as long as it's not a best man request. Chase says he did come over here to ask him that, and now wishes he could take that statement back. Finn says he was just kidding and of course, he'll be his best man. Finn got him tripped up for a second and wonders how he's feeling about the wedding in general. Finn says it's not unordinary to have cold feet, but Chase says he has warm feet. Gregory joins them, and Finn tells his dad that he thinks his brother is a little jittery about the wedding. Gregory calls it natural as he's about to make the biggest commitment of his life. Chase insists he and Brooklyn are in a great place now. Chase feels safe with Brooklyn. They are in step. Brooklyn is his best friend, and he trusts her more than anyone. Suddenly, Chase gets a text from the Quartermain lawyers. Brooklyn wants him to sign a prenup. Chase panics, and Gregory says these are very common these days, and it's likely meant to protect them both. Chase fears that right as they begin planning their wedding, Brooklyn is looking for a way out. Finn suggests this could be her family's doing, such as Tracy's. Chase recalls Tracy suggesting a prenup, but Brooklyn wouldn't hear of it. He decides to go talk to Brooklyn in person about this, and Gregory heads out with him. Finn has to stay as Violet is about to be home. Back at the Quartermains, Tracy gets a text and reveals there has been an error, one Brooklyn may have to pay for. Tracy explains the family lawyers sent a prenup to Chase in error before she could talk to Brooklyn about it. Brooklyn doesn't want a prenup, and Lois yells that Tracy has no right to control things that are none of her business. Tracy says safeguarding Brooklyn is her business. Brooklyn needs to go find Chase and explain this. Maxie says she won't have to look very far, as Chase and Gregory appear. In the cemetery, Scott runs into John at Karen's grave as it's her birthday. He's stunned to see Jagger. John explains he goes by John now, and he's with the FBI and in town on a case. John should have reached out but didn't know if Scott would want to see him after the divorce. Scott wasn't happy about it, but he still respects him for pulling himself up from nothing just like Karen did. Scott also understands things change and people change. Scott changes the subject and he's a lot more powerful than when John was in town, and he has convinced people he's a good guy. John is still angry that he used and exploited Karen. Scott tells John to make him pay and take him out. John would love to take Sonny down, but he's been tasked with saving his life and finding the person trying to kill him. Scott asks, "So you are going to forgive him for what he did to Karen?" John will never forgive him, but he has a duty to uphold. Scott suggests he look the other way and let Sonny get taken out. John says he's not that kind of agent or man. Scott asks, "So you don't think Sonny should get what he deserves?" Carly takes Donna to the playground, and Sonny shows up. Donna runs off to play, and Sonny asks Carly about Joss. She says she's heartbroken and determined to find Dex. He's sorry, but his back was up against the wall. Carly assumes he's not here to talk about Joss and Dex. She knows things aren't great between them, but something is wrong and she can tell. Sonny still feels like she and Michael betrayed him, but Carly argues she'd never do that to him and had a number of opportunities to turn him in if she wanted to. Sonny feels she violated his trust and thought she'd never do that to him. Carly says, "Whatever, you will believe whatever you believe." Carly tells Sonny that she's worried about him, but he says he can take care of himself. Carly notes Olivia is dead and she doesn't want to think about who is next. She knows the attempts on his life were part of a bigger conspiracy, and she knows the FBI is involved. She says his old pal John has become a regular at Bobby's. Sonny can't believe that punk with a badge had the nerve to talk to her. He admits John says his job is to protect him, but he doesn't trust anyone, and he knows the truth about Agent Cates. Carly asks what he means, but he can't tell her after what went down with Dex. Carly says she'll tell him if John drops by again, but doubts he will as she made it clear where her loyalties lie. Sonny decides to head out. At the gym, Michael calls Joss to check in. She lets him know she's going to find Dex, which Michael says is a bad idea. Joss hangs up on him. Dante arrives to meet Michael, and Michael needs a favor from his brother. Dante says if this is about Dad, then he doesn't want to get involved in their drama. Michael says Dad is lashing out and pushing everyone away, and now he has almost no one left to look out for him. Dante says Dad has him, and Michael scoffs because Dad won't let him in as he is a cop. That makes their dad vulnerable. Dante tells Michael that he needs to trust him, and they are progressing on the Olivia Jerome case. Confused, Michael asks how that's connected to Dad. As Dante and Michael work out on the bag, Danny fills him in on the connection. Michael still worries their dad could lash out at the wrong person and make everything worse. Just then, Sonny walks in and finds his sons together. Joss arrives in Rockland and asks a man she sees working cleaning something in the woods about Dex, shows him a photo, but he doesn't recognize him. Dex, meanwhile, is hiding behind a gate and looks at Joss. Dex eventually steps out and calls to her. She rushes into his arms and they kiss. He tells her that someone could see them and they have to go. Dex takes Joss back to his place and explains he's been trying to lay low and not make himself a target. Dex asks how he found her. She says she traced Gabe's number and found he was in Rockland. Dex says she was supposed to stay away and let him go. Joss couldn't and hated what Sonny did, and she didn't even get to say goodbye to him. He admits he hated having to leave her and missed her too. Joss tells him to show her, so they undress to make love. They cuddle after, and both have missed being together. Joss tells Dex things are going to get complicated, but Sonny will have to accept he can't keep them apart. Dex tells Joss that he isn't going back to Port Charles, and he's leaving Rockland, so this is the last time they can be together. This is goodbye for good. On the next General Hospital, Chase tells Brooklyn they may not make it. Lois blasts Tracy for interfering in Brooklyn's life. With a card in his hand, Finn asks Liz why he doesn't know about any of this. In the gym, Michael orders John to stand down. Joss tells Dex they can be together if they call his bluff. Sonny asks, "Whose side are you on?"